You are listening to Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast.
When your heart is aching and your world is shaking, don't give up. No, don't give up.
Hello and welcome to Oh My Health, There Is Hope, the podcast. I'm your host, Jana Short, and today we're back with one of my favorite guests, Cathy McKinnon. Cathy battled with infertility and cancer diagnosis in 2008, immersed in her journey to transform her life with a strategic approach to health and wellness. She knew she had to start sharing her journey as an example of what is possible when you bravely step into your true self. Cathy is a two-time #1 best-selling author with her chapters in Silent Grief, Healing and Hope, and Joy Recipes for Abundance, where she bravely shares her journey through infertility and path to joy. These books include stories that will inspire and touch hearts everywhere. Cathy was recently named Wellness Influencer for 2020 by Las Vegas Entrepreneur Magazine, and in their April 2020 issue for her work in helping women step into the healthiest, happiest, most inspired version of themselves. Cathy, you know you're one of my favorite people. I have been obsessively following you and stalkering you for a couple of years now. So welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me back. Always a joy to chat with you and catch up. It seems like forever since we have talked, but we've been watching each other closely.
I know, like we've been both so busy, but that's good busy.
Busy is good. You know, we are blessed to have such full lives, to have these opportunities, to have these networks, to have these incredible people, you know, sharing with us in our lives.
So I know we've been doing a 4-part series, and I've invited Cathy back because she's literally such a genius in this zone that I've asked her to come back and do another 4-part series that we'll release together so you guys won't be missing any of the pieces or wondering when they're going to come out. But on this one, we're going to talk about how boundaries become a power play. And if you haven't listened to the other 2 episodes, I'm definitely going to put them in the show notes so you don't miss out on this amazing segment that she's been doing with us. And Cathy, like, what do you mean when you say how boundaries become a power play?
You know, sometimes boundaries are so challenging, especially for us as women, right? I mean, as women, we are caretakers innately, right? So we want everybody to be taken care of and happy and fed. We love making sure everybody is okay. But what we do when we drop our boundaries and service everybody else as opposed to our journey and our path is we discredit our journey and our path. Because we're saying we're willing to just accept and take anything that comes our way. And that's not necessarily where you want to be to make traction in your life. I mean, boundaries are so necessary and vital to your journey that there's so much noise in today's world. And 2020 and 2021 have been extra interesting years for us. But if you let all those distractions take your energy and your time, you will lose traction on your path because you are spending your precious commodity, your time and your energy on distractions as opposed to taking steps forward on your path. You don't want to send out that signal that you'll just take whatever you can get and just anything and everything to consume your time and energy. If you feel like you are constantly being the doormat, you need to take a look at what you're allowing in your life. And setting your boundaries is a form of self-respect. And it's not this punishment that sometimes as women, we feel bad or guilty when we say no, or we don't do something. And really, it's not a negative thing. It's actually so much power to say, no, that is not part of my journey. That is not adding to where I'm going. That's consuming my energy, not helping me create this impact that I want to make in my life. And so we have to see boundaries as an absolute positive thing as opposed to a negative thing.
I think I had someone tell me once that the word no is a complete sentence, but as women, when we send a boundary, we say no, and then we start explaining ourselves on
There's
why.
No explanation.
No. Exactly.
There's no explanation. No, done. Move on. And I've had 2 clients who've come to me recently with their confidence just shaken, and these are some of the most confident women I've ever encountered. And they came to me and in our session, and they were like, floundering. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, you're some of the most confident, educated, powerful women I know, and you're floundering. Why are you floundering? Like, why are you even questioning this? And when we broke it down, it was because they did not hold their boundary, and they let in all of these external things that were zapping their energy. And instead of having that energy to pour into their purpose, they were already drained, and they couldn't figure out what was going on and why their purpose no longer seemed like their calling. And it's not that their purpose isn't their calling anymore. It's that they didn't have the energy to show up and serve in the capacity that they used to, because the distractions had consumed them. And as the heart-led entrepreneur, I feel that, because if we let all the external noise in, we take on that energy, and that energy zaps us. But that's why you have to have your boundaries. Otherwise, you will not be able to show up and serve in your highest capacity. You cannot hit your goals, you cannot thrive, and you cannot make the impact that you want to make if you're consumed with all the distractions of what's going on, what everybody else is doing, the comparison syndrome, all of this noise, as opposed to saying, I'm going to surround myself with positive, uplifting things. It's no, disrespect. It's no disservice to those other things, but I just do not have time and capacity. My plate is full.
I will tell you, I'm a seasoned coach. I've been coaching now for like over 10 years, and I still have to reset and set those boundaries, because I find myself, like, I remember when I first started coaching, I was begging for clients, right? We've all been there. We all know what that's like. And I would take anything. And at one point, I honestly feel like I might have been paying other people to come in for me to coach instead of them paying me, because you just like, you want to get out there. What I learned was, when I set those boundaries and I knew who my client was, like, you need to know who your client is. And I knew who that client was. And I heard them so, like, that beautiful voice so powerfully that I literally zoned into who that client was. Once I did that with those boundaries, it was, even the rough things were easy. Like, if I ran into a glitch, well, it's easy. I can do that. I can fix that. And I had so much energy and joy jumping out of bed each morning, do what I wanted to do, because I had those boundaries in place. Having said that, I still have to reset, right? Every once in a while, I have to catch myself and say, oh, I can't do that, and say no.
Yeah, you have to say no, and you always have to check in with yourself, right? And it's so important, like you said, to check in with yourself, because life happens, the world happens, there's so much going on, right? That it's easy to get caught up in just the flow of life, right? And checking off the boxes. But you have to step back and say, is this supporting the life I'm trying to create? Is this supporting the business I'm trying to build? Is this supporting the impact that I want to be known for? And you have to do that routinely, because it is so easy. And as a single busy mom, I can tell you, it is super easy just to get caught up and going through just the rush of life and baseball games and school events and this and that you're like, wait a minute, time out. Am I doing this because it was brought to me and I just said yes because it came across my plate? Or am I truly saying yes because this is something that is going to add value to my life, to my son's life, to the community, whether it's an organization that you serve? If you can't show up in your highest capacity, you are literally doing a disservice to not only yourself, but those that you are trying to serve, because they are not getting the full value either. And so you really have to take time to check in with yourself, because you cannot continue to say yes to everything and make the impact you want to make. So you have to decide where that line is in between what is a yes and a no, and the impact and the journey that you want to be on.
Well, I think for me, knowing you as long as I have, you're such an inspiration to me on what that looks like, how to set boundaries, how to show up at my 100% because I've set those boundaries and just do a better job. It's really inspired me. What are some tips that you can be, that maybe women can take into place? The number one tip I would tell you guys is no is a complete sentence. The minute you start
absolutely
explaining it, you're telling yourself, well, maybe it's not a no. And they're hearing maybe it's not a no.
You're trying to justify it at that point.
Yes.
We're not justifying it. No, it's no, move on.
So what are some tips that women can use to start creating those beautiful boundaries for themselves? Boundaries, when people hear the word boundaries, mentally they go to, they're shutting out things, right? I'm blocking myself from success because I've created these no spaces. The truth of the matter is it's very much the opposite. When you're saying no to the things that aren't going to flourish you in that space you're in, you're opening up the doors to grow as a beautiful expert in that field. So what tips can they use to start doing that?
Yeah, I would say, again, number one, no is a complete sentence. And it can be hard, but it's necessary. I would say number two, listen to your intuition. If you question it, if you're going back and forth, that's not a place you want to be. You want to be a place that is a yes with ease. So if it is not a hell yes, it is an absolute no, right? I mean, you want to be in places that fill you up, that uplift you, that you can add value. And if you're on the fence and you're going back and forth, that's not a place for you to be. That's not a space for you to play in. Number three, I would say, write down what are your values, like your personal mission statement and your personal values that you want to be known for. And then when something does come across your desk or your calendar, or your email, does it fit in with that? Does this support that personal mission statement? Or does it take away from it? If it takes away from it, it's a simple no. If it takes away from the values, or it takes away from the mission, it's a simple no. And so writing down that personal mission statement, writing down those core values of what you stand for, what your family or your household stands for, and this is how we spend our time, and this is where we are going to make our impact, is so important.
My favorite is your last one, is writing down your personal mission statement, because when you figure out what your passion is and you know it so in depthly, it literally does become a mission. And so for me, when I started, it was out of a near-death experience, right? Wanting to do something more with my life. And when I started with mine, I remember thinking that I had to do it all. Like because I wanted to help so many people, and realizing that I was helping no one, because it was like throwing spaghetti on the wall to see what sticks. But once I wrote that down and I was very clear on who I was helping and why, it was really a beautiful journey for me.
And that's the thing, right? I mean, we cannot boil the ocean, right? We cannot, as one person, turn a cruise ship, right? And so where can we go to make our impact and begin the domino effect of expanding our network and opportunities and our voice and what we want to be known for? You have to be able to have that narrow starting point. Otherwise, you are going to spin your wheels and burn out, because you're just trying to do all and be all. And that's not where your gifts and magic lie. And so you're denying yourself and the world showing those gifts and magic, because you're just trying to do and be everything. And that's not why you were put on this earth, right? I mean, we were given gifts and magic, but we need to utilize them, as opposed to doing all the auxiliary things that seem like they might be interesting or could maybe fit in. And they don't when you step back and look at them.
It's true. Like, for example, if you are in, I don't know, fitness, you're a fitness coach, and your goal is to help women empower themselves through physical activity, right? And being stronger. And then you're asked to speak at a mental health conference. Do they correlate? Maybe a little. Is that your zone of genius? No. So like, you have to say no to those things that sound great. And yeah, everybody needs mental health, but I'm a physical, like I work in this zone, and staying in that zone. And so when you're separating what you're doing and what your mission is, that's an easy way to do it. Is this something that I could really help at?
Right. Absolutely.
Right. So it's super easy for me. Like, I know that I get asked to speak at a lot of mental health conferences because I'm a mindset coach. It doesn't really correlate. Mental health and mindset are completely different. If I told someone suffering from depression, get over it, you have so much to be it's beautiful, just think this thought, have this board, it's not going to work, because there's something else going on. They need to work with someone that's a specialty in that field. So it really helps when you know exactly what it is you're doing and who you're helping, and you just say yes to that zone.
And it can be challenging and hard when you're saying no, because people are used to you being everywhere and doing everything. And all of a sudden they're like, whoa, What do you mean Cathy isn't coming here? Or Cathy isn't going to do this? Or what do you mean she declined that speaking engagement? She always says yes. And so that can almost feel like negative feedback or rejection because you're not used to people kind of questioning what you're doing or why you're doing it, because you're used to being everywhere and doing everything. It's not negative feedback. It is absolutely you saying, I am going to focus and zone in on my specialty, my impact, and my personal mission. It's no disrespect to the other people. I've had to have this conversation sometimes with people, like it's no disrespect, but I need to take my time and energy and focus on this that I am doing right now. And this in my gut and intuition leads me that this is the best place for me right now. And so, don't take it personal if people don't understand your journey or why you said no, or why you just chose not to do that thing, because at the end of the day, it is your journey and your personal mission statement. And so you've got this one life and you've got to make it what you want it to be.
Cathy, one of the things that you do so beautifully that I just want to give you kudos for, and for all the young people starting out, I really want you to hear this message. And maybe she'll tell us a little bit about not only why she does it, but how. But your son is your number one priority. Like it took me to be the age of 51 and having a near-death experience to understand what was important to me. And it wasn't making more money. It wasn't like having all the things. It was creating a memory. Like, how do I create a memory with the people I love? How do I leave an impact on them that they will remember? And that's what my life is all about now. And you have this beauty, you're so busy, you're everywhere, but you still know, like, my son comes first. This comes first, creating this memory, being in the moment with him. I miss the moments with my kids. I call being a grandmother a do-over, because I understand now when people say, be careful, they grow fast. And next thing you know, they're gone. That really happens. My grandkids are now driving cars like they're in their 15, 16 years old. And I'm thinking, where did it go? But I was in those moments and it was different. So how do you stay in that moment and separate, like, this is what's important to me. I have to say no because this is important, right? How do you do that as you're building a business, especially for young people still building?
And it is challenging, right? Where is that balance? And some days, I step back and question it, like, oh, I am trying to build this business, but I'm also trying to raise this young man. Because of my infertility journey and everything I went through to have him, 5 years of miscarriages and infertility treatments, when he was born, I said out loud, I owe it to him to be the best mom that I can be, because he blessed me by being my miracle baby. And so it has been about, how do I leave this legacy in raising this young man to be the best young man that he can be, and understand that mom is there to always support him, no matter what, no matter whatever the conversation, whatever the decision, I'm here to support him. And he's got my 100% support. And he knows now that if he needs me, he can call me and I will step out of a meeting. There is no meeting that is more important than taking a phone call from my son, even if he just wants to ask me, what he can have for snack or for dinner, because he knows that having that support growing up and being able to ask any and every question, having a resource available to you, and having the person that is always sitting there in the stands cheering you on no matter what, is so important. Especially today, there's a lot going on for kids in today's world. And I think having the boundary on, I'm going to drop everything to do this thing with my son, the school events, this vacation. I take him on a vacation every year before school starts so we can both clear our minds and reset before he gets back into school. And that's his time. I'm not working on my business that week. I'm not doing social media that week. There are no podcast interviews scheduled that week. He knows that that is 100% his time. And it's so important, I think, for you to not only establish the boundary. And, when your kids are younger, it's hard for them to understand. But now as my son is 10 years old, he understands and he knows his time with mom's not doing other stuff. And it's important for them to know that they have that resource available to them. And it's not always easy juggling, building a business and raising a son. Of course, there can be conflicts and things, but that's where I draw my hard line. If it is taking away from my son or his time with me, then it's a no. And you know what, maybe I did lose out on some business opportunities or things I could have done because of that. But I strongly believe and stand in, if it was right for me, it would have worked out. And that's just where it is. And maybe down the road, I'll do those business things again as they come across my desk. But right now, raising this young man, it's about legacy.
I love that. By the way, for all of you women who are moms listening, you can have it all. Cathy's a perfect example of how when you create the right boundaries, it truly becomes a power play and you can have it all. But without those boundaries, honestly, you're going to lose something will give. And I hope it is not your relationship with your children, your spouses, your friends, your family.
Many times it's our health, right? We focus on everything and everything else, and we forget about our health. And we've talked about this before, Jana, like you cannot ignore yourself and taking care of yourself, physical health, mental health, and still show up to do all those things. And so many times for women, that is the first thing that suffers.
I agree. I know that I didn't take care of my health. Like I just didn't. I was so in the power world. And I remember thinking because I was an interior designer, when I would go to a job for an interview, I got out of my very expensive car. I had my Hermes bag, my Louis Vuitton shoes. And I thought that was success. When they see me, they're going to be like, we have to hire this girl. Look at her. And I was really skilled. That's why they were hiring me. But now, like I literally roll out in the sweatsuit with so much more confidence in who I am, right? In whatever I'm wearing, I know that isn't what I want to project into the world. I want to not project that anymore. And what for me, success is having those relationships grow and thrive and having those memories and creating, like you said, a legacy. We're creating generational changes, something that our great grandkids that we won't even know will be affected by because of the things we're doing right now. And so to me, that's powerful.
Oh, it's so powerful. Like, how do you want them to speak up not only of you, but what you, right? And so it's, we speak of this crazy time that we're in with COVID and everything that has come out of it, but it's how do you want them to speak about how you continue to show up, not just during this COVID pandemic, but after and years, and what did that teach them about coping during adversity and how to handle themselves and that, you still can persevere. Those lessons are so important, but I could not have time for them if I didn't have boundaries set, because I would be too busy consuming myself with all of the things, the social media, the school events, whatever. And so I have to draw that hard line and say, teaching my son about leadership and perseverance trumps scrolling social media, turning on the TV. And I have to have that hard boundary. Sometimes it trumps doing things in my business. It trumps sometimes hanging out with the ladies. But you know what? You have to draw the line wherever that boundary is for you.
I know that you're a major influencer, and I get this question all the time. I'm sure you do too. People always say, I want to be an influencer. How do I be an influencer? Like, this is what I say to them. Like, are you a mom? You're an influencer. Are you a friend? You're an influencer. Are you a daughter? Are you a sister? You are an influencer because everything that you do, say, how you treat others, how you are in your job, how you are in your home is influencing the people around you. So take pride in that. And as you start doing it, showing up better, showing up, doing more, you actually will start to grow. People want to be around you. And pretty soon you start influencing more, but you are already an influencer. How do you answer that for people? Like they want to be like you. They want to change the world. And by the way, we should all be changing the world. Like that is
that should be an inherent thing, I think.
Yes.
But, you never realize who is watching you and who is influenced by what you're doing. And so it goes back to how are you leading yourself? Because people are watching whether you realize it or not, whether they comment on your social media post. Half the time they don't even, hit the like or button on your social media post, but they're watching you. You're inspiring them and influencing people that you don't even realize you're influencing. I had someone say, I was just down in Texas last week and someone who I haven't spoken to in probably months bumped into, had a conversation. And they said, you know what, I really admire this and this about you. And I was like, so they had been watching my social media, not engaging, which is fine. But again, I didn't even realize that they were watching my social media. And so you never realize and we tend to underestimate who we are influencing and impacting. And that is why you need to preserve your boundaries so you have the energy and capacity to continue to show up at your highest self, because you are influencing people without even realizing you are influencing people.
100%. That is so true. Literally everything we run into someone at the grocery store and we smile and say hi. It lifts their day. Like we remember their name. Like my husband taught me a really good lesson. I would just talk to people. I never looked at name tags and address them like a human being. And he does to every person in our grocery store when we go knows him. Hey, Dr. Steve, how are you? And he knows their name. And I'm like, I don't know how you remember all these names, but he does. So like, even something as simple as that really impacts another person's lives. They remember you.
And that's the thing, is they're going to remember you. How do you want them to remember you? Do you want them to remember you as the person who addressed them by name and struck up a conversation and asked them how they are? Do you want them to remember you as, oh, it was that lady with the dark hair who never said hello?
Yep.
They're going to remember you. Just what is it for?
I love it. As we wrap up how boundaries become a power play, Cathy, is there anything you want to say to wrap this up? How can people contact you, work with you? How can they learn to start setting boundaries so that they can be the best that they can be?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. You know, we have this one life. We want it to be the most vibrant life that we can. And that starts with creating a foundation that allows us to give love and attention to everything in life, especially those things that matter to us while we chase, our wildest dreams and our passion. And the only way to do that is to optimize the facets of our lives so that we can create a container to grow. And so boundaries is just one piece of that, but it's such a vital piece of that. And if folks want to get in touch with me or find some more inspiration, I'm on Instagram. That's my most active platform, at Wellness Warrior Coaching.
So we're going to definitely put all those links so you can find her very easily. I also will add the links to the other 2 episodes leading up to this so that you'll catch them all. And we've asked her to come back and do another 4-part series, which we will start releasing together so that you guys don't miss anything or you're not looking for the other ones. So Cathy, thank you so much for being on the show today. You are amazing.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast. Make sure to visit Jana's website, bestholisticlife.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, or listen there so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show. That'll help too. Let's change the world together, one health expert at a time. Looking forward to seeing you next time.